What is going on, guys? This is the Inside the Boot Podcast, episode 63, and today we're doing a Giants mock draft, our first of the season, first on the channel as well, and the Giants select at 6th overall as of today, and let's get right into this mock draft. So, of course, a lot to take into this mock draft. Of course, the Bears selecting number 1. Not gonna do, we're not able to do any trade ups or trade downs because we are, of course, not subscribed to PFF Pro Football Pro Football Focus. Sorry about that. But of course, the Bears select number 1, Cardinals at number 2, Patriots 3, Bears 4, Washington, and then the Giants. Of course, we look at the Giants' needs: QB, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, and defensive back. But I guess let's start up this draft, of course, and we look at this draft right now. A lot of options for this team, but we look at it and definitely interesting in my opinion with Drake Maye going number 1 over Caleb Williams. I think these two are definitely two studs in this draft. I think Caleb Williams is definitely better, so I'm surprised the Bears went with Drake Maye, and then they go Brock Bowers. That's definitely an interesting pick as well. But Patriots do their job. They get Marvin Harrison Jr., who had an amazing year out of Ohio State. Caleb Williams, of course. That pick is definitely interesting in my opinion. I know Caleb Williams is really good. I 100% get that, but then what do you do with Kyler Murray? Because he has a contract that isn't really movable in my opinion. So I wonder where the Cardinals go, with that instead of taking Marvin Harrison Jr. But it does say QB need is, at the QB position, but. Now we get to the New York Giants. Of course, we have all of these options. We got an edge rusher from UCLA. We got Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, Newton, bunch of guys that the Giants can select here. And, I think with the Giants, wide receiver is obviously one of their biggest needs. QB is one of their biggest needs. We look at some of these trades, it says, but we're going to go back to draft players. We look at everything. We look at the QB position. Bo Nix, obviously not there. He's way too early. Wide receiver. You got a guy like Malik Neighbors who had a pretty darn good year out of LSU. And then we go, the offensive line, Joe Alt. Probably the biggest, probably the consensus pick that the Giants, should select. And we're going to go with Joe Alt. So, Joe Alt, you are a New York Giant. And so they got the offensive line out of the way for our first pick in this draft. And now we have another decision to make. We just went offensive line. Looks like Bo Nix is gone. Let's see who took Bo Nix. Who took Bo Nix? So it looks like the Rams took Bo Nix. Kool-Aid McKinstry went to the Cardinals. Michael Penix Jr. heading to Let's Ride Denver Broncos. Jaden Daniels goes to the Vikings. Just looking at really the big QB names. Bo Nix, of course. Looks like the Jets went with the edge rusher. All right, so we got another decision here. If I'm not mistaken, I thought Sanders was not supposed to go in this draft. I thought he was declaring for next year, but we're not taking Shedeur Sanders. Even though QB is definitely a position that they could go Sanders, but we're going into this draft thinking that Sanders is not going to be declaring for the draft, and we have some options. Of course, Xavier Worthy, a really good player. Troy Vitano from Washington's a solid tackle. I think he can play guard as well. Yeah, I mean, that's his overall grade. Obviously a lot of the stuff is locked, but, he's a pretty good player out of Washington. But I think for the Giants' purpose, I believe they have to go wide receiver here. I mean, listen, you could go another, offensive tackle pick, but I think Xavier Worthy out of Texas should be the second selection for the New York Giants. So now you have a wide receiver and you have an offensive lineman. So now we got a few Michigan guys on the top of this list. J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. You got a tight end, Sanders Jenkins out of Michigan. Jackson Powers Johnson, guy from Oregon. You got Denzel Burke, a cornerback. But listen, I think and a guy like Jonathan Brooks. If you want to go with a guy, a running back. But I do believe they should get a second option for Saquon Barkley, but I don't think it should be here. I think for the Giants, you look at Denzel Burke, pretty solid cornerback in my opinion. Yeah, he's played a lot. He's played a good amount of snaps. I think he's a pretty good corner in my opinion. But hey, these are his stats right now, so I don't know if the Giants are gonna go cornerback. I really don't know, but I do like. See, the thing is too with taking a center, right? Is can he play? Can he play guard? Can he? He's had one injury, so that's definitely something to take into account. What do you do with that? I think there's definitely a lot of options here for this team. But I think for the Giants, cornerback is definitely a need, and I just think offensive line is also a need. I would not be surprised if they went Jackson Powers Johnson here, and we're going to take Jackson Powers Johnson. Just beef up more of that O-line. I think the Giants should really focus on offensive line and offense in general. So this is now the list. We have a quarterback from Texas, Trey Benson from Florida State, Mekhi Wingo from LSU, Luke Lackey from Iowa, and DJ James, cornerback from Auburn. And hey, I really like Trey Benson a lot. I think he's a guy that you can, rely on to be that number 2 role in this offense. It's just a fact with, he's having a good year as well. He has, 14 touchdowns. He's a good player, right? And, he's got a good overall grade. It looks like he's, from what it looks like, he's got more touchdowns in less games this year. I think this is a guy the Giants, could really take a swing on, and but they could also move on from Darren Waller and take a tight end, right? I think this, I think he's a pretty decent player, this tight end. But listen, I think 100% we're going to take Trey Benson. So, really focusing on offense right now. We'll see where this goes. And that'll do it for the draft, because we only were able to pick 3 times. So, Of course, this is our draft. Oh, we picked 4 times, sorry. This is our draft overall. Obviously, all offensive players, but, you know, it looks like for what it is, we didn't reach it. Don't think we reached really that much. I thought this was a pretty good mock draft, but you know, kind of a quick video. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna do PFF next time, but I know they have the best rankings. So, anyways, guys, of course, this has been the Inside the Boot podcast. We're gonna have a lot more videos like this, you know, in the upcoming weeks, and might do one every single week, depending on my own schedule. And you know, these are fun. You know, they change them up. You know, I think the only pick that I really could see them not doing is taking Jackson Powers Johnson. But I think if he can play guard or, you know, something like that, you can move him there. Because I don't think Justin Pugh, Mark Galinsky, or Ben Bredesen are good options for this team at all. I think, you know, you got to draft in the offensive line. I think Joe Alt is amazing. Really hope we can get Joe Alt, but it also depends how the Giants finish out this season. You know, if they win a few games, like 2 or 3 more, then I don't know if they're going to have Joe Alt at 6. But, of course, it's been a fun video. It's been the Inside the Boot podcast. I appreciate you guys for everything, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.